Hey guys, it is me, Jacqueline, long time no see. For today's video, I'm going to talk about my favorite books of 2016 so far. We still have a couple more months left of this year, but I want to sort of go back and reflect on certain books that have really stood out for me for this year. Some of these books are more popular, others I feel like need to be talked about or read more, and so I want to talk about them, why I love them, and why I would recommend them, so let's get on to this video. The first book I have is The Forbidden Wish, and this is by Jessica Khoury. This book came out February of 2016. It is a fantasy standalone book that is a retelling or reimagining of Aladdin. In this book, we follow our main character named Zahara, who is the most powerful genie of all, and one day Aladdin actually discovers her lamp, and that's where this story takes off. Zahara is the main reason I think I love this story so much, because her character is so vibrant. She really just flies off the pages, and I found that I was just flying through this book and I loved everything about it. I loved the writing, like I said, the characters with Zahara and all the other characters. I really also loved how Jessica Khoury took certain factors like Aladdin and twisted it and made it her own version. In general, I would definitely recommend to check out this book. I love the fact it is a retelling, I love the fact it's fantasy, and also I love the fact it is a standalone novel. I feel like so far we have gotten so many series and trilogies and duologies, but it's nice every once in a while to get a standalone book. So I actually do have a book review on my channel for this book. If you would like to check it out, I will leave that on the screen as well as down below, and I talk more about this book and why I love it so much, but highly recommend. The next book I have is Amy Harmon's The Law of Moses. Amy Harmon this year has easily become one of my favorite authors. Her books, her characters, her writing is absolutely flawless and beautiful and breathtaking, and there are parts where I laugh out loud and when I cry, and I feel like each book I read by her, I get something out of it. I learn something from it, which I think is something so amazing. I would definitely recommend to check out her books. Specifically, I think my all-time favorite one of hers so far that I've read is The Law of Moses. It is just breathtaking. I'm going to read the back of it very quickly. It says, "If I tell you right up front, right in the beginning, that I lost him, it will be easier for you to bear. You will know it's coming and it will hurt, but you'll be prepared." That's just a little sneak peek of her writing and a sneak peek of this book. I would not recommend to read a summary. In general, she tends to write more new adult romance books. I know she has a fantasy book out. I know she's also coming out with a historical fiction book that I actually have pre-ordered. I would just recommend any Amy Harmon book, but if I had to choose one, I would say The Law of Moses just really personally touched me so much. The next book I have is The Star Touch Queen by Roshani Chokshi. This book came out in April of this year. It is a YA fantasy romance book. It also has mythology aspects. In this book, we follow our main character named Maya, who's destined with a death horoscope, and this was told to me as being a book with Indian mythology, and it was a Hades and Persephone's retelling. I can definitely see those two aspects very well, very clearly. I think personally for me, my favorite thing about this book though was the writing. This is Roshani's debut novel, and it was such a spectacular one in my personal opinion. The writing alone was mesmerizing. I also loved the romance, and I loved the whole Hades and Persephone's vibe I got from this book. I know a lot of people thought the writing, at least, was a little bit overdone, but for me, I just felt it was so beautiful, and I cannot wait to see what else she comes out with, because yet again, this is her debut novel, so I can already see that she's going to just go such a long way. I cannot wait for more books, because I do know she's coming out with a companion novel to this one next year. I cannot wait for it. I would highly recommend to check out this book if it does sound like something you would enjoy. I do have a book review up on my channel if you want to know more information. I'll leave that on the screen as well as down below. The next book I have was Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare. I love Cassandra Clare. This book is seriously my baby. It was so amazing. I feel like everybody has read this book, and if you haven't, I would highly recommend it. If you absolutely have no interest in the Mortal Instruments or the Infernal Devices series, definitely pick this one up. If you do have interest in either one of those two series, I would definitely recommend to read those first. but this book, so fantastic, so wonderful. I think Cassandra Clare, each book she comes out with just gets better and better, and I am just in awe. I feel like there are just some authors that I find I follow throughout their writing career, and she's definitely one of them. I will constantly buy her books because I feel like her books were just made for me, and I know they weren't, but whenever I read them, they are just something that I can fly through, I can get invested in, I can theorize, I can really think about, I can feel and love and hate and everything like that, and it takes a lot for a book or author to make me feel that way, and she's one of those authors that can make me feel that way. So yet again, Lady Midnight, Cassandra Clare, definitely one of my favorite books of this year. It was so fantastic. I actually have a like 20-minute book review up on my channel where I talk non-spoilery wise and then spoilery wise about this book. So if you want to check that out, I will leave that on the screen as well as down below. The next book I have is A Court in Mist and Fury by Sarah J Maas. This book has my heart. I love this book, like I'm smiling ear from ear, but then like this book also like tore my heart out a little bit and stomped on it repeatedly. I read this book in one sitting. If you did not know, I did not eat, sleep, whatever. I literally just sat and read this book. I was invested into this story, and I seriously need the third book in my life. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, it's still September and I have to wait until May for it. So currently crying on the inside because I sort of forgot about that, but I would definitely recommend to read this book if you haven't already. This is actually the second book, a part of the A Court in Thorns and Roses series by Sarah J Maas. Personally, for me, I thought the first book wasn't as good as this one. I feel like this is a very strong second book, but that's just my personal opinion. Anyway, I do have a book review up on my channel, and I'm going to leave that on the screen as well as down below. If you haven't checked it out already, I go into spoilers and non-spoilers and all that jazz, and there is just a lot of me fangirling about this book in that review. It's actually really funny to watch. Then the last book I have to talk about for this video is Ever the Hunted by Erin Summerell. This is the first book, a part of the Clash of Kingdoms duology, and this book comes out December 27th of this year. I love this book so much. I would highly recommend to keep this book on your TBR. I was lucky enough to get an e-arc of this book from the publishers, and I fell in love with the story. It is yet again the first book in a duology. This is a fantasy book, and we follow our main character who is trying to seek revenge. She's a very strong main character, which I love it, and I think what sort of makes this book utterly unique for me though was the entire setting. I feel like when it comes to books, I don't really mention the setting whatsoever. Sometimes it does have an importance, and for this book it does have a very important factor, and for me I felt like the setting was such a focal point, but something that really made the book utterly unique, because the way that Erin Summerell sort of handled the setting was something I haven't really seen in a while. She really made the setting the main center point for her entire story, so the characters, the plot, everything like that really ran from this setting, and I loved it and made it so lively and magical and wonderful, and I would just highly recommend to check this book out when it does come out in December. It is so worth the read. So those are my 6 favorite books of 2016 so far. Please let me know down below in the comments what your favorite books of this year are so far and what you thought of the books I mentioned. I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!